Hello there, this is Dana Arcuri, author, speaker, survivor, and certified trauma recovery coach from danaarcuri.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you are doing well. And today's topic on this video is signs of narcissistic mothers and how to heal mother wounds. And this really does run deep. This is a sensitive topic. We are approaching Mother's Day, at least in the United States, on May 8th, 2022. For some of us abuse survivors, Mother's Day is not a day of celebration. It is bittersweet. It can be painful for some of us who have experienced child neglect, child abuse, and/or narcissistic abuse. And so when I was on my little break and I was thinking about how I was kind of growing weary of talking about narcissistic abuse and different things to do with that topic, I really had to take a deep dive into my own healing journey and come to acceptance that I am a daughter of a narcissistic mother. I have suffered various types of neglect, abuse, narcissistic abuse, sibling abuse, dysfunctional family, sexual assaults, complex PTSD, and compounded trauma. Therefore, my trauma story is a part of me. It's a part of my life. It's a part of who I am today. And the more I had really pondered during this break from YouTube, I pondered, what does this mean for me? Where am I heading? And I thought, you know what, here's the truth. I've learned so much about narcissistic abuse, about various types of traumas, including within the family dynamics. And I am now using everything I have experienced, everything I have learned, all of my education, especially as a certified trauma recovery coach, to be a light in the dark for those people who are still in the midst of narcissistic abuse or various types of family dysfunction and trauma. And so I'm not going to be silenced. I'm not going to keep my story to myself. Hey, I launched my book last year on how to break free from narcissistic abuse and heal trauma. And I am a survivor, and I am going to shine my light on the darkness. And I believe that I am being used as a beautiful vessel today to come alongside other survivors and help them along their healing journey. And so there may be times when I won't want to talk about it, and that's okay. And there's other times I do want to talk about it, in which I will create a YouTube video such as this one. And being that Mother's Day is just around the bend, I really believe this is very timely. And so let's get started on the topic. When I think of a narcissistic mother, other than thinking of my own mother and what I've been through, I think of a movie called Mommy Dearest. So I don't know if you've ever watched the movie Mommy Dearest. I have, and there are some things in that movie, especially the hanger scene where the mother was freaking out, flipping out, and lashing out at her young daughter who had wire hangers in her closet. And it's kind of like ingrained in my memory forever, that horrible, horrible scene of her mother who just had an emotional meltdown and was so cruel and manipulative and toxic towards her precious daughter. So the film, Mommy Dearest, depicts Christina Crawford's adoptive mother, who is actress Joan Crawford. And Joan Crawford is an abusive, manipulative mother. And it was narcissistic abuse as well as child neglect and abuse. It was absolutely heartbreaking. And yet I relate to every bit of it. How about you? And so before I share the signs of narcissistic mothers and get into how to heal your mother wounds, first, we need to get into narcissistic abuse, narcissism, etc., and really educate ourselves first and get some facts about what is a narcissist? What do they do? What are the signs? So according to Urban Dictionary, they say a narcissist has an inflated ego. They think highly of themselves, believe they are superior to others. They lack empathy, and they use lies and manipulative tactics to control others. And that's very accurate. Narcissists tend to be highly critical and judgmental people, especially to their own children, husbands, wives, and loved ones. They are cruel, cunning, and spiteful people. Oftentimes, the narcissistic mother will fabricate facts to justify her malicious, vicious, toxic words, actions, and behaviors. Understand, there is no excuse for abuse, period. So what is a mother wound? The best way to describe a mother wound is to understand that it is a significant loss, and it is a lack of mothering. So basically, it's almost like you never really had a real mother. There was this person who was supposed to be your parent, but did they really parent you? Or did they just abuse you? Next, typically children raised by a narcissistic mother was forced to grow up fast. So you lost your innocence. You lost your childhood. You were forced to parent your own mother. It was almost like you were the mother of your mother. It was not a healthy or normal or functional mother-child relationship. Rather, it was dysfunctional, and oftentimes it can become codependent, even if we are not aware of it. So a mother wound is the deep pain rooted in our relationship with our toxic mothers. The narcissistic mother wound is like a double-edged sword. It cuts like a knife when your own mother will gaslight you, ostracize you, bully you, shame you, blame you, and repeatedly harm you. Next, according to lonewolf.org, they say, our mother wounds are traumas that pass down from generation to generation. They have a profound impact on our lives. These wounds consist of toxic and oppressive beliefs, ideas, perceptions, and choices. And so the one thing we must know is this: a narcissist chooses to gaslight you, to hurt you, to bully you, to manipulate you, and to continually treat you like trash. It is a choice, so let's not make an excuse for the narcissistic, abusive mother. Next, I am a daughter of a narcissistic mother. Most people know this. I have hundreds and hundreds of videos on a wide variety of topics to do with the narcissistic abuse, manipulation, gaslighting, toxic jealous siblings who are the flying monkeys, etc., etc. So I know firsthand the turmoil, the trauma, and the drama, and the aftermath of spending a lifetime being abused by a narcissistic mother, as well as abusive toxic siblings. So one of the biggest challenges with adult children of narcissistic mothers is facing this one crazy myth in our society. And the myth is that all mothers are loving and caring and nurturing, and they're so gentle, they're so nice, they're so kind, they're so compassionate. So worldwide, there is this false notion, and it's a taboo topic, that there are mothers who are actually not fit to be mothers. There is this false myth in our society that all mothers are kind and loving and gentle, and that's the furthest from the truth. And so we must understand that for many adult children who were raised by a narcissistic mother, we are scolded by society who screams, "But it's your mother!" How many of you have been told that? How many of you have been re-traumatized repeatedly over people who are so cruel towards you and might blame you for what your mother did to you? So number one, it's not your fault, and only your mother can be accountable for her abusive and toxic words, actions, and behaviors. So despite the fact that you've suffered psychological abuse, rejection, triangulation of relationships, smear campaigns, hoovering, baiting, and projecting, the silent treatment, non-stop criticisms, and scapegoating by your mother, most people who haven't personally experienced it, they won't understand it. And the truth is, they just don't get it. because they didn't go through it. So, how convenient that they could just lash out at us and give us their 2 cents worth, yet they never, ever experienced this for themselves. Therefore, if you have not walked a mile or 2 in my own shoes, or anyone else who experienced a narcissistic mother, please keep your comments to yourself. Have compassion. Have love. Give support to these people who have been traumatized and abused. And if you have nothing kind to say, shh, be silent. Next is that before we can heal our mother wounds, we first need to understand narcissistic abuse, especially with our mothers. So here are 7 signs of the narcissistic mother. You just might relate. Share your comments down below if you do. Number 1, your mother disrespects you and disrespects your boundaries. Number 2, your mother is emotionally immature and unavailable. Emotionally unavailable. So you may have felt like there was never a connection. You never had a bond with your mother. And maybe the only bond you're left with is a trauma bond. Number 3 is your mother was a control freak who tried to overpower you. So they're control freaks. They really do go on a power trip and they do everything they can to try to control everything about you. What you say, what you do, how you look, how you dress, your relationships, your health, your job, your marriage, your children, and on it goes. Next is your mother is a master of manipulation. Oftentimes, she will intentionally destroy your relationships by triangulating all of them, especially with your father, your siblings, husband, spouse, children, and even strangers. Next is that number 5, your mother habitually abuses you. Now, this abuse could be mental, physical, sexual, financial. It could be so many different various types of abuse. And so I am so sorry if you were abused by your mother, and please know that you are not alone. And number 6 is your mother dumps toxic shame and blame onto you. She accuses you of being the problem, and she loves playing the victim role. So oftentimes the narcissistic mother will say that the scapegoat is the abuser and the perpetrator, and they'll claim that they're the victim. But we all know the truth. We know the truth. We know that they're just full of nonsense and they are delusional. Next is number 7. Your mother is self-absorbed to the extent of idolizing herself. Everything revolves around her wants and her needs and her desires, and she forgets all about you, especially children. They forget the medical needs, they forget the emotional needs, they forget giving their child tender, loving care. Oh no, everything's about mom. So she says that you are not smart enough, not pretty enough, not handsome enough, not smart enough, and you most certainly aren't good enough in her eyes. So we must identify the lies that our mothers spoke over us, that she said about us, and we must kick the lies to the curb. And next, we're going to talk about 7 steps to heal your mother wounds. And I want to start with a motto that most narcissistic mothers have. So the narcissistic mother says, "It's my way or the highway." Does anyone relate to that? Next, let's get into the 7 steps to heal your mother wounds, and we'll start with number 1. Face your wounds. The first step is to face, to process, and to admit the truth about your narcissistic mother wounds, to validate what your narcissistic mother said and did to you. So we're not going to bury it. We're not going to run from it. We're not going to deny it. We're not going to try to say it didn't happen when we know it did. So it's really essential that we own what happened to us and we learn from it, and we know that it's not our fault, but we do admit the truth and we face it. Number 2, do inner child work. So explore doing inner child work by reconnecting to the younger version of yourself. Give this little younger version of yourself compassion, nurturing, and love. And remember that this was the child who was neglected and abused. So start thinking of everything that you missed out on as a child and or teenager or adult, and give it to yourself. Give yourself that tender, loving care because you are so worthy of it. Number 3 is conquer your inner critic. So build awareness of when your inner critic shows up with hostile messages. Understand that this is a common and normal trauma response. Oftentimes that inner chatter, you know what I'm talking about, it might keep you up at night, that inner chatter that just won't shut up. And it's just going, do, 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 do. You're not pretty enough, you're not good enough. Oh, you're not lovable, you're this, you're that, and on and on. So it's common for trauma survivors. It is very, very normal. Nothing's wrong with you. So when you experience the inner critic, build more awareness, like be aware of when it rears its ugly head, and then learn to switch up those words and that silent, horrible message being told to you. And so part of it is taking the negative words and switching it into positive affirmation. So you could say, I am divinely loved. I am strong. I am courageous. I am deserving of respect, healthy boundaries, kindness, and safe relationships. Number 4, seek emotional support. So consider getting, one way or the other, with whoever it may be, emotional support by a trauma-informed expert who is experienced and educated in narcissistic personality disorder, narcissistic mothers, narcissistic abuse, and dysfunctional families, as well as everything pertaining to trauma and the trauma recovery. Number 5, healthy boundaries. So set clear, healthy boundaries for all of your relationships. And this includes if you are still in a relationship with your mother, and also have healthy boundaries with your siblings, your relatives, your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, intimate partner, friends, coworkers, and even strangers. Number 6, self-parenting. So have you ever thought about mothering your own self? If you haven't heard of this, it's something worth checking out. So learn and practice how to self-parent and self-mother yourself. Give yourself extra tender, loving care, empathy, compassion, nurturing, kindness, appreciation, and acceptance. Give yourself everything that you didn't receive and that you really did deserve, especially when you were a child. And lastly is number 7, gray rock and go no contact. So it's pretty much wide open to considering limiting your contact or completely going no contact with your narcissistic mother. So in some cases, it is very wise and therapeutic and healthy to practice gray rock or to go full no contact with our narcissistic mothers who are very, very unhealthy for us. The gray rock method is basically having limited contact with your narcissistic mother. Do not give her an emotional reaction. She will basically try to push every single button of yours. She craves narcissistic supply, so she will want to get an emotional reaction from you. She wants you screaming, crying, and begging for her to be kind to you. Do not give her an emotional reaction. Don't even respond. Next, another way is full no contact. So we have to understand this. Some people are estranged from their mother or their father or their siblings or all of the above. And this is the most important thing. And if you learn nothing, please learn this one today. No one walks away from a loving, kind, gentle, nurturing, respectful, healthy family, especially their mother. So nobody just walks away. Nobody just goes no contact with our narcissistic mother for no reason. So after exhausting all options, going no contact was our last resort. And it most certainly was for me. But today I want to say kudos to all of you survivors who broke free from narcissistic abuse, who rebuilt a life, or maybe you're just in the very beginning healing journey. So I Congratulate you. Well done, brave warrior. And so today, did you experience child neglect and abuse? Did you experience and suffer narcissistic abuse from your mother? Are you healing from your mother wounds, and how are you doing this? So if you need emotional support, please reach out to me, like my video, subscribe to my channel. And if you need emotional support, I am a certified trauma recovery coach who specializes in narcissistic abuse recovery and so many other various forms of trauma. Thank you. God bless. Take care of yourself. Be gentle with yourself, especially on Mother's Day. God bless and have a wonderful day.